from the Hockey News, Stephen Ellis returns to the SquadCast. Stephen, thank you so much for checking in. I love the picture in the background already. He's embracing his new Twitter bio.
Yeah, I went through all my old photos today, just the old ones I drew. There was some guy who reached out to me and said, "Hey, we got to make a picture book out of all this."
Oh.
Not sure going to do that, but I had like 400 that I drew from the last World Juniors. So
you know,
in one tournament, you had 400, Stephen.
Well, yeah.
It's funny. Like, I actually have a job that requires me to write about what's going on,
right.
but it's just, people kind of fall for the photos and stuff.
Now, I don't know, Stephen, if you've heard of NFTs, but maybe that's a direction you should go in.
Right.
NFTs, man, they're blowing up.
That's right.
I've had someone kind of suggest that. When I was in Montreal for the Stanley Cup final, I actually decided to buy a pen for my Microsoft Surface. Makes drawing these things a lot easier.
Yeah.
I actually, did have somebody who was like offering to pay for some of these things. I'm like,
buy it.
Just save
We're turning this into a business show. We got Ross Stripling with the...
Yeah, I don't know if you were in for that part, Stephen, but we suggested that Ross Stripling and the Blue Jays get into the steak industry with the Ross Stripling. I mean, yeah.
It only makes sense.
I thought so, too. There it is, the Ross Striploin. He looks super pumped in that picture, too. Stephen, before we get into the hockey, I just thought of this. You are a fan of obscure sports. We talked about this last time you were on with us. Now, this isn't so much obscure as global, but were you extremely as invested on the weekend as our director Jordan was in the F1 drama that was going on with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen and et cetera, that went on? What was your thoughts on that this weekend?
So I've watched Formula One since I was about 4 years old.
Had a feeling.
And I can tell you that was the best season of Formula One I've ever watched. You know what? A lot of I would hate to be a race director. It sucks. It's really hard. And there was definitely some questionable decisions there. Some of that was still in Lewis's hands to have won that race. He could have pit. It would have been risky. But then if he pits, Verstappen doesn't pit, and all of a sudden he's on the fresh tires and he's on the attack. So I'll just say that F1's having a PR nightmare right now. And it's kind of a shame that's kind of how the season ends. But it's Formula One. I kind of like tweeted out. It's like, oh, good. Formula One, we know that they over-police things. Like in NASCAR, you're allowed to slam into anybody. Dirt racing, same thing. But in F1, you come near someone and it's investigated. So, of course, it comes down to a judgment call, or not judgment call, but it comes down to a ruling that no one seemed to agree on. And that was the difference maker in the end.
Well, here's the thing. You say PR nightmare, but it's got a non-F1 necessarily fan like me. I literally know every detail about this now because Jordan's told me but I also have done some looking into it because now I'm like genuinely curious. So now I'm like into it. Now I want to watch the Drive to Survive series. I want to get into that because now I want to see all this stuff.
I was going to say, I don't think Netflix is terribly upset with how things shook out.
The next episode of that show is going to be huge.
James Hinchcliffe, the IndyCar driver, who actually he retired today. But he kind of tweeted, it's like, oh, it's F1's a lot of fun when you got Netflix doing race control. I watched a few episodes of Drive to Survive, and if you're a new fan, it's awesome. But if you watch the entire season, it's like, I don't recall it being this over dramatic, and it's just kind of hard to watch. So I kind of gave up on it.
Clever editing, as they say. All right. I'm going to let you, Max, take over.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, well, before we get into the hockey talk, Stephen, we're going to give you a cross-crease tap-in. You know, the patented one on NHL every game that they've ever had. Exactly. You got to give us the backstory of the Instagram handle because much like I'm assuming yourself, I'm trying desperately to avoid every single Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler that there possibly could be on the internet. A little bit tough when you do the kind of work that we do, but at the same time, what's the backstory of the handle, and do you got any tips and tricks for avoiding spoilers on social? Because I've come dangerously close to ruining it already for myself.
The amount of times I've had to triple check that it's Steven when I tag him in stuff, just to make sure. Is this his? Yeah, it is. Okay.
So first off, as I was waiting to get on here, I unfortunately saw some terrible spoilers.
Oh no!
Tell Max right now.
Anyways, here's what happened. I was in a Discord channel. It was called Spider Leaks. So of course, it's kind of my fault for being in it, but it was kind of because I wanted to see leading up to it all the kind of just the deep stuff people were doing to kind of look into it. But yeah, so my Instagram's I'm probably Spider-Man. I hate Instagram. I don't like it at all. I only use it literally to promote my photos that I take for hockey or when I'm doing NASCAR photography, and it's kind of just for work related purposes. So I just wanted to have just a random name, and that was a name I had in high school. I've changed it a few times, and I keep coming back to it. So yeah, I'm probably Spider-Man. It's just a Spider-Man. Like, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. So right now, this like I'm taking Friday off work. My work doesn't know it yet to go see the movie. So sorry, Hockey News. Hopefully, of course, that'll be the day when all the breaking news happens. Like the NHL will shut down for the season or something. But yeah, it's kind of, I just keep it. I don't care about it, so I just don't really align it with my other platforms, essentially.
Well, you know what's funny about that, Stephen, right? In our subconscious as fans of whatever it be, sports, pop culture, I'm probably Spider-Man. If everybody knows this, Peter Parker is a photographer, right? So if that's most of your content, I mean, it all just kind of loops back in and around. But I'm with you, my man. I took Friday off as well. My employer does know about it already, so we're good. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to stay off social media for the next 3 days. I'm going to put some filters on or something. But anyways, moving on.
I've seen too much, unfortunately. Just the 2 screenshots I saw, I'm like, okay.
No.
I hate that.
And it's been,
that's okay.
We've just been waiting so long.
Send him to Max. Just ruin his week.
The one thing I will say.
See, the problem is,
yeah, go ahead.
I have an opinion on it that I don't totally hate the leaks, but it's like it will ruin it for people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've done a fairly good job.
I like them.
Exactly. And you know what? And that's what I've heard as well, too. I did see a tweet that said, even if it's been spoiled for you, you're going to love the movie. So regardless if it happens, it happens. But I guess moving into the hockey talk, right, Stephen? And you set it up perfectly for us. You put it on a tee, as they say. Around these parts, some may have dubbed you the unofficially official exclusive doodle artist of the World Junior Hockey Championships.
Yes.
Now, can we expect the same type of shenaniganery during this year's edition of the tournament, or are we just going to have to stay tuned?
It's returning, and it's coming back for the Olympics.
Excellent. Breaking news.
I know my part of that is because the IOC will literally do whatever it takes to shut down your account if you share clips.
Right.
So I just don't want to mess with them. Of course, if the NHL doesn't go, I think my audience for like a China versus Germany game at 2 a.m. might not be very big, but it's we'll see. But those aren't going away. It kind of just started with this one Niels Hoglander one because I posted a clip of him scoring a cool goal and then it got DMCA'd. So I'm like, okay, so I just drew it and I showed it to my dad. He thought it was like the funniest thing ever. And he's just like, keep doing this. And then it ended up just becoming a thing. And then I only bring it out for kind of like certain occasions. So it's come back to the World Juniors. I don't want to overthink it. But it's just got to be fun. It's got to be random. But I got to say, the burritos are back because on all the American players, I don't know how many of them I got in there. They have burritos on their head because they're sponsored by Chipotle.
That's awesome.
So little small things.
His production value is going to be up this year because he's got a pen now. For his
exactly. Yeah,
so
100%.
I'm expecting big things here. But
see, that's the thing. It's like people say it's like, man, this looks better than what you see on TV. It's like, well, yeah, because like this is like 8K instead of the 4K broadcast.
Exactly. 100% it is.
Yeah, it's in crystal clear 2D. I mean, what more could you ask for? But Stephen, it's been a big week. Obviously, with a lot of roster news coming out about the World Juniors itself. Some guys not coming, some guys coming. It's really, there's a lot of question marks. But from what you've seen of the rosters, is Team USA a team that we're looking to bounce back as another gold medal team? Or do you think there's going to be some change in the guard this year? What's your overview of kind of the rosters so far as they've trickled out this week?
USA is a team where I think I'm higher on them than most people. They don't have the depth that we've seen in previous years. And look in the past when they were able to get a much of the same group, that the group that played in the 2019 U18s, most of that team, like Cole Caulfield and Zegras and guys that got the chance to play last year, that group's done. So now you've got to get the younger age groups, and it's definitely not as strong. But I think there's maybe going to be some surprises there. I think it's almost very wide open. There's not a lot of set like you're the number one center, you're the number one like deep. It's kind of more wide open, and I think that gives the opportunity for some guys to kind of shine. Right now, if I'm looking at who the favorite is to win gold, it's Canada, and that just sounds easy. That's usually the answer every year, but that's a team where you look at the guys that didn't make it, guys like Brant Clark, guys like Joshua Roy and Hendrix Lapierre, and they still look downright dominant. So I still think Canada's number one. Sweden's going to look really good if William Eklund and Alex Holtz alone should really kind of push that team, and Jesper Wallstedt might be one of the best goalies in the tournament. Russia's maybe not as strong as they could have been. Like, they didn't bring any of their junior players or their CHL players or Yan Kuznetsov, who would have probably been, like, he's playing the AHL. He probably would have been the best defenseman on that team, and he didn't make the team. So that was a bit puzzling. So right now, if I'm looking at like who the strong teams, I still think Americans got a chance at the medal. I think Canada's number 1, maybe USA 2, maybe Sweden 3, but it's gonna take a collapse by Canada to lose this one. I think it just start to finish every position. There's enough depth to get excited about that group.
Let's stick with the Russian team just a little bit. Was there a reason that came out as to why they left the Canadian Hockey League or the North American skaters off the team? Is there a reason for that? Did they want to? Is it a political thing with players just only coming from Russia this year? What's the deal with that? Do you know?
See, Russia and like Slovakia are 2 countries that are kind of known for letting some pretty quality players not come because they're in the CHL. But the fact that they have no CHLers, and then also the really strange thing is that every single player on Russia shoots left. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
like literally every player.
It's like the Blue Jays lineup.
There was one time about 5 or 6 years ago, the Detroit Red Wings dressed a lineup for a couple of games in a row. It was all left-handed shots.
What was their record in those games?
I don't know. Could probably lost a couple. It was during they were pretty good at the time. They weren't that bad of a team, but that sticks out in my mind. So it's not never happened before, but it's rare.
I've never kind of subscribed to the idea that you need to have a certain mix of like left and right hand shooters. Like I know like a lot of it's been made about Canada not having any right handed defense. It's like a lot of these guys play on the opposite side, right. So that's not really a problem. Like when I play defense myself, I was a right handed guy shooting on the left side. Now, granted, I played house league. I'm not in the NHL. I'm not a junior prospect, but I made it work. So these guys better be able to make it work.
Right,
but
exactly.
Russia's team, it's still good. Like there's still a lot of talent, but it's like you definitely did not bring the best group possible. And it's like the CHL guys, they don't have to do an extra quarantine like Russia because they're already local. Like they're in the country. But Russia, like they'll have to quarantine for 2 days when they show up. So that again really doesn't make a lot of sense. And they've submitted like that's their final roster, barring any injuries. They're not bringing anyone else. So it's kind of puzzling. There's been no real official reason given, but we know Russia in the past has made political decisions to not bring CHL players because they have left the KHL development system. So that's what I'm kind of leaning.
Yeah, it's interesting for Russia. And again, sticking on him. I mean, Steven, I don't know if you could tell I'm a Preds fan.
Oh, really?
Again, it might have jumped out. But anyways, Yaroslav Askarov, speaking of Russia, he's making his 3rd appearance at the tournament. Obviously, the first couple didn't exactly yield the results that him or his country expected of him. But from what you know of Askarov, at least from this season, and maybe what you've seen, what you haven't seen, could the 3rd time be the charm for him at this year's tournament?
So I'm a huge Askarov fan. I think that this guy is truly one of the best goalie prospects that we've seen, and I still think he's going to win the Vezina Trophy at some point in his career.
That makes me happy.
I'm a huge fan. But hey, I had really high hopes on Saros too. I just wish he was like 5 inches taller.
I know.
So don't think at his age he's not probably going to grow that tall, but
probably
with Askarov, it's just like I don't know how to really explain. And there's like from talking to goalie coaches and goalie experts about what Askarov did wrong the last 2 years. Like the first year, I didn't think he should have played many games in the first place. But then last year, like that should have been his tournament. And in the end, his stats weren't terrible. Like I think people kind of maybe misremember like how his tournament actually went. But Russia's defense also wasn't very good. They were blowing a lot of opportunities there. Mm-hmm. But he also would just drop his stick like it was like his job to do so. And that really made no sense. So there's a lot of things there where it's like, okay, he should have been so much better than they ended up performing. This year alone, he's got another 5 games of KHL experience. Like he's got a lot more pro experience now than he did a year ago. And I think that's kind of a key thing, which a lot of these guys don't have that same experience. Mm-hmm. Now in Europe, goalies do often play pro at this point. Right. I still think he's one of the best goalies in this tournament, without a question. It's just, what's his mindset going to be? He's played in 2 of these tournaments and he's kind of not been at the best he could. But we saw him at the Karjala Cup last year where he was lights out and the reason Russia dominated. So we know he can kind of steal games, but this has to be the opportunity where he does it. If he has another not so perfect tournament, I think there'll be some questions raised.
For sure.
Just watch your toes here. I'm just about to drop a few names. Wayne Gretzky, Eric Lindros, Jay Bouwmeester, Jason Spetz. I think you see where I'm going here. Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and now the next Connor Bedard.
Spoiler alert.
You missed Bill Campbell, the best of all of them.
Shoot.
Jeez. Well, it's only good if you get them all, Clark.
You're
Come
right.
on.
I missed one.
You're embarrassing us.
Who did I miss? Anyways,
Don't worry, I haven't heard of Bill Campbell either.
Bill Campbell. When did that happen?
I thought he was on the dollar bill, wasn't he?
That's a different guy.
That was 81, but I believe that was like the final time they did like a Memorial Cup team out there. So it's like he didn't make it because he was really good. He just made it because he made his own team.
It wasn't like the All-Star format or whatever. Okay.
No, it's not like he actually forced his way onto it like Connor.
Right. Okay.
Right.
So now we're living in Regina. So I've been lucky to see Connor. Have you seen Connor Bedard in person?
I've seen him once. Yeah.
So we've both seen Connor Bedard in person, but we've never seen him playing with World Junior level caliber players. So how excited should Canada be to see this guy? And I know in first practice day, Mark Masters tweeted out that he's the 13th forward. I don't expect that to last very long. Should we get excited for this kid to move up the lineup pretty fast? And what do you think his impact is going to be on this team this year?
I still say temper your expectations with him in this term. It's not going to be like Matvei Michkov on Russia, where he's going to be like, he's going to have to be a really big key player, and he's another 2023 draft pick.
Right.
When you're looking at Bedard, he doesn't need to be that good. And I think even if you're just limiting him to, let's say, 6 minutes a night, but we usually know the 13th forward really doesn't play a lot. If you're limiting him to a few minutes a night, he'll make the most of those few minutes. And I think if you can't really get a word any better of a 13th forward. So I do think he is probably not going to play a lot. Wouldn't even be shocked if he ends up sitting a game or two because he's so young. A lot of this is for the experience. Of course, next year is going to be his big chance to really be the dominant force that he can be. But at the same time, in camp, I think he got a lot of points. It was clear, but they were kind of trying a lot of things. They were giving him more ice time than I think we were really expecting him to. And that's because a lot of the star players, the locks, didn't play both games. So he kind of had those opportunities. But I think if they're icing their best possible lineup for both U Sports games, I don't think we're talking about Bedard getting 6 points. Now, granted, I think he's every time he's going to be on the ice, I think he's going to make an impact. And if you're putting him against some of the weaker matchups out there, he's going to do a lot of damage. And in those games against the weaker teams, I think he will get a bit of opportunities. But I don't think you're going to see him against like Finland moving up to like the second line. I think at best we're talking the Quinton Byfield. Remember, he didn't play a whole lot in his first year. Right. Byfield, slightly older and a bit of a different situation. He was probably better suited for a fourth line role anyways, but I don't think we're going to see a ton of Bedard, but I think what we're going to see of him will be impactful. And obviously you guys have seen a lot of him. You know how good he is, and we all know how good he's going to be, but I don't, just because of the age, I think we're going to see Hockey Canada lean towards their more veteran players, which it sounds stupid calling veterans at 19 years old, but it is.
Yeah. It is. Either way, I'm excited to see how he kind of fits in and how they utilize him. Like you said, will they power play specialize him? What will they do with them? One thing that was one of my favorite things, and Max, I'm kind of stealing your question here a little bit because I know you were going to kind of ask one similar.
Great. I have all the good ones anyway.
I know. We've talked about, some of the big countries. We talked about Russia, Sweden. One of my favorite things about the World Juniors is seeing some smaller countries. One guy kind of steals a spotlight, or two guys steal a spotlight. We've seen it in recent years with teams like Germany and these other teams coming up, and they have, JJ Peterka a couple of years ago with Germany was so good, and some of these other guys. Who's going to be that guy or a couple of guys like that this year that we should really watch for?
The one I think that's going to be really exciting is Austria's top centerman, Marco Kasper. He's a 2004. He played on the team last year. And honestly, I would say almost at points was better than Marco Rossi. Now, at the end, of course, we kind of learned that Rossi was just recovering from COVID, and it ended up being in a terrible health situation at points. So that's kind of to be expected. But he's going to be, I think, really important. Senna Peters, I think, is another guy who will be good. On Austria. I think Austria's top line of Peters, Kasper, I want to say it would be probably Leon Wallner. That's going to be a pretty decent line, a lot of fun to watch. Austria versus Germany is going to be one of the biggest games of the tournament because it's going to decide who goes to relegation unless Germany somehow beats Canada. But the problem with Germany, they won't have Reichel, they won't have Stützle, they won't have Peterka. So last year, when you look at that group, and that's the one where if everything was healthy and they were doing that, they probably could have stolen a really big game at some point. They had the talent, and that top line was rolling. But now you're looking at it where they won't have their top line. The rest of the group's pretty average. That's not necessarily really good. I'm really liking Slovakia. I think Slovakia is a team where maybe not this year, but maybe next year is really going to come out here and I think really surprise. They've got a lot of talent in guys like Juraj Slafkovsky, who's going to be a top prospect, Simon Nemec, a really good player. And the one to really watch, though, is Dalibor Dvorsky. He's 16 years old. He's 2023 draft. But this guy was unbelievable. He had multiple hat tricks at the Hlinka Gretzky. He was one of the best players out there, despite being 2 years younger than a lot of the guys. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. So Slovakia, Germany, or Austria, they kind of have some guys to watch. But if it's almost like, I feel really bad for Germany because last year would have been their year. And this year they might legitimately get relegated. Which would be kind of a bummer. But if you want to see a team, if you wanted to put money on a team that could actually go out there and pull off a quarterfinal upset, Slovakia might be the team to watch, depending on who they play, just because there's so much young talent in that group. It might be one of the best Slovakian teams in terms of pure talent that we've seen in 20 years. So at the World Juniors, and that's pretty exciting.
So before we head to the NHL real quick there, Stephen, I really wanted to talk about Owen Power because we obviously went through the list of 16-year-olds to make Team Canada. I think the list might be even shorter for guys that have debuted in a World Men's Championship and then played in a World Junior Championship. Can we expect this guy to be a dominant force as the first overall pick in the draft, a guy that's playing in Michigan, or is he just going to be that steadfast kind of maybe, I don't know, almost like a Victor Hedman-esque type of player for Team Canada at this World Junior Championship?
So I think the only other guy that do that for Team Canada was Patrice Bergeron, and he did it because for whatever reason he did back in the day. So for Power, that's kind of cool. And I talked to him about that. I was like, what was your World Championship experience? And he said, I think one of the most key things that he learned was how to battle through adversity. And those first couple games where they went out there and lost to Germany and Latvia, and they just played absolutely terrible. But I think that experience could really translate well into this tournament, where he can be a leader for this group. And he's having a really strong season in NCAA. His offensive numbers are really flourishing. Granted, he plays on a team where the guy could probably get a lot of points as a defenseman. Right. The University of Michigan, where it's just so many guys that are scoring.
Some not bad guys there, yeah.
Couple guys.
Yeah, just a few of them. And so if he's getting a chance to go out there and pass to Kent Johnson, well, Kent Johnson's probably going to put a few pucks in, and we've seen that chemistry work. So I think he's going to be a really good playmaker in this. He could play kind of all situations, but he will be the physical body there. Caden Gooley probably would too, but I think Power, you can kind of throw into a shutdown role if you need. If you need a point on the power play, he could do it. He can kind of just do everything for Canada. And truly, the comparison that was given to me when first watching him was Victor Hedman. I watched him back when he was only 14 years old outside of Toronto, and just seeing like this guy was just huge from the get-go, and you could see kind of some Hedman traits in it. And I think that probably is the best way of explaining kind of how he plays. And that's the guy he watches the most. If there's the size, the offensive skill, very good at poking the puck away. There's just kind of so many things that he does well. So I think Owen Power is going to be maybe the most important player on Team Canada.
That's a pretty damn good comparable, I would say.
Wouldn't be mad about it.
Victor Hedman's done some good things in the league. Hey?
Yep.
He's done a couple
cups.
Just traded for him in my keeper league still. I think he's got a few years left.
I hope so.
Anyways, the state of the NHL, Stephen. Today's been a Twitter nightmare for many reasons. Obviously, Spiderman, No Way Home, but also the NHL. What's been the water cooler talk like, so to speak, if you even have a water cooler at the Hockey News, on a scale of like 1 to holy shit? Are we going to be?
We're breaking the swear barrier.
We're breaking it because it's been a day. Are we at that point of talking about potentially looking at a bubble, potentially a unexpected stoppage? Like what do you think is, or I guess what have you heard rather? What's our next steps looking like if we continue to see names fall due to COVID?
And if I can add on this,
please do.
How will this affect the World Juniors too, which is coming up quick in Canada? What's that looking like, I guess, on top of all of this?
See, that's the World Junior thing. That's a tough question that really hasn't been asked a lot. They're not in a bubble, except the players will still be very restricted on where they're going. So the players will be with each other. There will be a quarantine for the teams that have to kind of fly in. So there's that. But then like the teams are going to be only allowed, to my understanding, at the hotel and the arena. They're not going to be doing sightseeing. I think Canada, they're doing that right now in Banff, which is one of my favorite places in the world. I'm so jealous right now. Mm-hmm. But they've got the opportunity where they're not probably going to be doing a lot of traveling. So that's good at this point. They're still looking at full fans if you're fully vaccinated. So the fact that they haven't kind of changed that stance, I'd say, is a good sign for that. In terms of the NHL, it's kind of like it's too early to tell, but also almost too late at the same time, because it's like it's too early. Like, are we talking like the new variant here where these players, for the most part, like we've only heard about players like just being totally fine. They've got it, but like they're feeling completely fine, and that's a good thing. I think the NHL's better set here to address it than at any point in the last couple of years, outside of maybe the bubble, but that was because that was completely extreme circumstances. I do think the NHL's best bet here would let's put a pause on it and return sometime right after the Christmas break and just kind of reset. Give the guys a chance to go home and just not be involved here, because it's also very distracting for the players where they're probably hyper focused on this topic the whole time. And of course, you got guys who go to the All-Star game, which doesn't seem to be getting a lot of attention. It's all Olympics, and I get it. There's obviously more risk there, but we are talking about the All-Star game just days before they have to leave. So that is still an issue here. And so there's a lot of problems that are still on the table here, but if most of the players are getting it, but they're not, they're going to be fine in a couple of days. I don't think there's as much reason to worry, and that's the good thing. We look, the Carolina Hurricanes have kind of been upfront and saying like, yeah, all our guys are fine. They've contracted it, but they're okay. And as long as they're not spreading it and they're quarantining for now, and they're going to be okay, and only missing a little bit of time, maybe they can just keep going. And this is just a blip in the radar, but we can't wait too long at this point. We do know the NHL, the NHLPA, and some other doctors have met tonight to kind of discuss what the next steps are. I wouldn't be shocked, and it wouldn't be a bad idea if they cancel the games, but if they pause it for a little bit, but at the same time, they might see an opportunity where they can get around it all. And that would be super ideal, but we got to talk about safety here. So we don't want to put the players in an unsafe situation. At this point, the Olympics are a ticking time bomb. Like, I can't imagine any way this happens. And if that's the case, we're looking at Canada's goaltending, potentially including Justin Pogge, which would be awesome to see based off of what we saw at the World Juniors so long ago. He's going to be the Channel 1 Cup starting goalie tomorrow morning. So, it's kind of a mixed bag, and we should know pretty soon. But it's definitely the most concerned I've been, and for obvious reasons, all season long. Look, when we saw Ottawa and we saw the Islanders, I wasn't concerned about the Olympics at that point. It was when it started to spread to a lot more teams, even in just small doses. That's when I think it really became a problem.
Yeah, and well, you know what, Steve, I appreciate the update, and you know what, it's like, it sucks. It sucks that we're still in this world and talking about this, but it's unfortunate. It's the reality of the situation. Yeah. But to end off here, let's go to a bit of more of a festive note, a little bit of a lighter note. I'm not too sure how much your professional life differs from your personal life. I know we'll be watching a lot of hockey over our holidays, but what is your holiday plans looking like this coming Christmas, Stephen?
Well, I'll be in Edmonton for the juniors, so that's definitely a focus. I love the juniors, but I think I almost like the Spengler Cup just as much. Yeah. I don't know if you can see, but I'm a huge HC Davos fan.
Gotcha.
So I always like to see them play, so that's a key thing. Other than that, it's a lot of hockey, obviously. Getting to see my family. Unfortunately, COVID has caused some deaths in the family, so it's gonna be nice to see kind of some people where we're not having to go to a funeral for a little bit.
Sorry to hear that.
It's tough, but it's gonna be nice just to kind of like I still live I live in Toronto. My family lives like 25 minutes away, so like I do visit them from time to time, but so it's not like it's anything really different. But I'm happy to. It'll be nice to take a couple of days off and not think about hockey around Christmas. So like last year, Christmas Day having the hockey was not my favorite. So it was a nice little, like, nice as a one-off. I never want to do that again. For sure. I want to be able to enjoy Christmas with my family, and I think everyone can kind of agree on that one.
Absolutely. When you do have time, what's your go-to Christmas or holiday movie?
Yeah.
See, I know Elf was said before. Yes. I think that's one of the worst Christmas movies around.
Ooh, hot take.
I just don't find it funny, and I like a lot of Will Ferrell movies. I just don't find that one funny. I'd say the original Santa Claus is probably one of my favorites.
Ding, ding, ding. Nailed it.
Arthur Christmas is really good. And if you guys haven't seen the new Grinch movie, I think that's one of the best animated Christmas movies of all time.
Benedict Cumberbatch is the voice?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Well, we'll be seeing him on Friday.
Yeah. Well,
in the flesh, not in animated form. But
it's the new Grinch has played in my household because I got two younger daughters. I didn't pay attention to it, so I'm gonna have to pay attention.
Come
to it next
on,
time.
man!
I know, I'm telling you,
it's good. It's good.
I'll have to watch it.
It's really solid. Like it's got its own identity, which is nice. Like the animation, obviously, like that's animated compared to the live action one,
Right.
Like 20 something years ago. But this one I feel has got its own identity where it doesn't feel like obviously it's the Grinch story, but it doesn't feel anything like the original cartoon or the live action movie.
Arthur Christmas too. You said it. Love that movie. That's a good one.
That's one I've never seen. I've heard the Christmas Chronicles as well.
Solid.
I like watching a lot of
Christmas
movies.
Chronicles is great.
Yeah?
Christmas Chronicles 1 is fantastic.
Yeah.
Christmas Chronicles 2 was like drones attacking from the sky and like laser beam. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I think it was almost funny in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, my older daughter loves Christmas Chronicles.
I'll have to give that one a go then. I've heard that from a few people that's one to check out.
It's a good one.
We just finished with the live action Grinch. It's a once a year. The girlfriend loves it, so that's just what we do.
Yeah,
it's at the point where I can be on my phone and I'm quoting the movie, not even paying attention. I'm just saying the lines. It's just The
Santa Claus for me is mine, and Christmas Vacation. My name is Clark, so I kind of have a special connection. My dad
kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wait, you've met the star of the movie? Is that what you're talking about? Your special connection?
I think I was somewhat maybe subconsciously, if not named after that guy.
For sure.
So anyways.
See, I have 80 jerseys. I'm trying to see if I know where it is, but I have a Clark Griswold Blackhawks jersey somewhere.
There you go.
Not be here.
I was gifted my first year when I was in Estevan working with the Bruins in the SJHL, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. Coach Lou Good gave me a Blackhawks shirt that said Griswold on the back. And I was like, wow, this is a deep cut. Thanks, man. I still have it somewhere in my house. But anyways, Stephen, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for giving us the update on all the things tonight. And maybe we'll do this again closer to New Year's or shortly into the new year. But stay well yourself and enjoy the trip to Edmonton. And we'll talk again soon.
Enjoy Spider-Man, Stephen. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Enjoy. Travel safe.
Spider-Man's going to be my new favorite Christmas movie, and it's got nothing to do with Christmas.
I know exactly.
Why not?
Yeah, I already know
it came out around Christmas, therefore it's a Christmas movie, I guess. For
sure.
Anyways, thanks, Stephen. We'll talk to you again.
Take care, Stephen.
All right, and that guest was brought to you by our friends at Hoop Life Basketball. Hoop Life Basketball. Head to your
We should have talked to Stephen about Steph breaking the 3 record.
Ah, dang it. That's not an obscure enough sport, I don't think.
No, that's right.